गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 प्रभुपाद। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परम हंस परवगतर अष्टोत्तर से डिवाइन गैशी ऐसी भक्तों संप्रपाद की। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परम हंस परवगतर अष्टोत्तर से डिवाइन गैशी भक्त सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई महाराज की, अनंत कोट वैष्णव भक्तवृंद की, नामाचार्य ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम को राधा किन गोवर्धन की, वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की, नवदीप मायापुर धाम की, गंगा मैया की, यमुना मैया की, तुलसी देवी की, भक्ति देवी की, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे। ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Guru and Gun Hari Bol। चश्मा कहाँ गया? Hare Krishna. I welcome you all in this evening session of Bhagavad Gita class. Today we are reading from this Bhagavad Gita Yata-ātmā, chapter number 12, text number 13 and 14. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjan Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टम स्थापितं भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति सद्वद्गं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगण रघुनाथं वितं समितं स्वावधूतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् सगण ललिता श्री विशाखावन्तांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबन्धु तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभान सुदेव प्रणमामि प्रिये। वांछा कल्पतरुवश कृपा सिन्धु च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णोदेवो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण। मेरे साथ बोलिए। अधिष्ठा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुणा एव च nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ maiy arpita-mano-buddhir mat-bhaktaḥ सामे priyaḥ adveṣṭā sarva-bhūtānāṁ maitraḥ karuṇa एव च nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ maiy arpita-mano-buddhir यो मद-भक्तः सा मे प्रियः adveṣṭā sarva-bhūtānāṁ maitraḥ karuṇa eva ca nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ mayy arpita-mano-buddhir यो mad-bhaktaḥ सा मे प्रियः. Please repeat one by one. adveṣṭā sarva-bhūtānāṁ maitraḥ karuṇa eva ca nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ mayy arpita-mano-buddhir yo mad-bhaktaḥ सा मे प्रियः. adveṣṭā sarva-bhūtānāṁ maitraḥ karuṇa eva ca nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ mayy arpita-mano-buddhir yo mad-bhaktaḥ सा मे प्रियः. Mataji, anybody? adveṣṭā sarva-bhūtānāṁ maitraḥ karuṇa eva ca nirmamo nirahaṅkāraḥ sama-duḥkha-sukhaḥ kṣamī santuṣṭaḥ satatam yogī yata-ātmā dṛḍha-niścayaḥ mayy arpita-mano-buddhir yo mad-bhaktaḥ सा मे प्रियः. Word meaning: adveṣṭā, non-envious, sarva-bhūtānāṁ, toward all living entities, maitraḥ, friendly, karuṇa, kindly, eva, certainly, ca, also, nirmamaḥ, with no sense of proprietorship, nirahaṅkāraḥ, without false ego, sama, equal, dukkha, in distress, sukha, and happiness, kṣamī, forgiving, santuṣṭaḥ, satisfied, satatam, always, yogī, one engaged in devotion, yatātmā, self-control, dṛḍha-niścayaḥ, with determination, mayy, upon me, arpita, engage, manaḥ, mind, buddhiḥ, and intelligence, ya, one who, mad-bhaktaḥ, my devotee, sa, he, me, to me, priyaḥ, dear. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki. One who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me, such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. मेरे पीछे बोलिए, one who is not envious but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is tolerant, always satisfied, self-controlled, and engaged in devotional service with determination. His mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki. Coming again to the point of pure devotional service, the Lord is describing the transcendental qualifications of a pure devotee in these two verses. A pure devotee is never disturbed in any circumstances, nor is he envious of anyone, nor does a devotee become his enemy, he thinks. This person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. So it is better to suffer than to protest. In the Srimad-Bhagavatam 10.14.8, it is stated that te nukampam su samichamno bhunjana atma kirtan vipakam. Whatever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that it is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks, thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions. A devotee is also very kind to everyone, even to his enemy. Nirmamo means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body. Therefore, he is free from the conception of the false ego and equipoised in happiness and distress. He is tolerant. He is satisfied with whatever comes by the grace of the Supreme Personality, Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he is fixed in the instructions received from the spiritual master. And because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments, because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of the devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord. So, no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulative principle of the devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. This chapter has 20 texts actually. It is divided into 3 sections. First section, yes. First section from text 1 to 7, Bhakti over impersonalism. 8 to 12, progressive stages of devotional service. 13 to 20, the qualities that endeavor one to Krishna. So we have to study the qualities of the pure devotees here. So there are the so many qualities of the pure devotees, such as humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the object of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of the birth, death, and old ages and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness, pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, to the Lord Krishna, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of public, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. So these are the qualities actually. But here in this text actually, some qualities are there actually. So this important qualities, one of the important qualities, tolerance. Tolerance is very important actually for a devotee actually. If a devotee has a quality of tolerance actually, he can keep his mind fixed in the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna actually. The tolerance is adopted everywhere. It is adopted in the family, it is adopted in the society, adopted in the office, amongst the friends, etc. actually. If the tolerance is not there actually, what will happen actually? The mind will disturb actually, and he will not carry out the devotion service in a proper fashion actually. His mind will not be fixed. His mind will always against the arguments which has been made or something has been happened actually in that. If the devotee is tolerant actually, so what is it? His mind will always be in the lotus feet of Lord. The tolerance what is the means of tolerance? Tolerance means that one should practice to bear insult and dishonor from others. This is most important. Then and only then one can divide of this tolerance, insult and this dishonor. If one is engaged in the advancement of spiritual knowledge, there will be so many insults and so much dishonor from others. This is expected because the material nature is so constituted. Even a boy like Prahlad Maharaj, who only 5 years old, was engaged in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, was endangered when his father became antagonistic to his devotional service to the Lord. His father tried to kill him in so many ways, but Prahlad tolerated him. So, for making advancement in spiritual knowledge, there may be many impediments. Definitely, so many impediments. So you have to avoid those impediments actually. You need not to give attention actually. Impediments, but we should be tolerant and continue to maintain our progress with determination, with the aim of achieving the Golok Dham, from where there is no return to this material world. Once there was in this Mahabharata actually, there was a disrobing event of the Draupadi in the Kaurav court, and before that the Dushasana started to tear her clothes. She was manhandled, dragged into the court. She was pulled by her hairs. Her sari cloth was pulled by Dushasana at the instruction of the Duryodhana and insulted by Duryodhana also. All this happened in presence of King Dhritarashtra, Bhishma and Dronacharya and others. Her husbands were muttering and rumbling in anger, but none of them could lift even a finger to help her. She was helped by the Lord Krishna by supplying yards and yards of sari cloths actually. This all you know actually. One should chant the holy name of Lord in the humble state of mind, thinking oneself to be the lower than the straw lying in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of Lord constantly with trust and faith. One takes to the shelter of the Lord Krishna in all circumstances, even if he handle one roughly by his embrace or make me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything. Lord Krishna is free. He is free to do anything. So we have to take the shelter of Lord Krishna actually. This shelter, whatever Krishna do, whether he embraces or not embraces actually, it depends upon the Krishna actually. So this to take shelter is very much important. He is completely free to do anything and everything. He is always worshipable. Lord Krishna is always worshipable. It doesn't mean that actually if the Krishna actually gives some punishment to, then we stop actually this worshipping. No. Even then we have to thank if actually just we have told actually one was actually fit to have a more punishment actually, though the punishment received very less actually. This should be the feeling of the devotee actually. It is not that we develop these qualities first, no, and then start chanting holy name of the Lord, no. At initial stage, we have to start the holy name of the Lord under the guidance of the devotee, pure devotee, and also engage in devotional service to the Lord. The qualities will develop slowly, automatically. The qualities which is listed in this text actually, these qualities develop automatically, slowly, when you engage in devotional service, when you have the power of tolerance actually against dishonor actually and insult. Actually these are meant, these qualities These are meant to get out from the entangle of material and physical world, which is place of distress and repeated birth and death. If one takes to devotion service in full Krishna consciousness by approaching a spiritual master, the qualities develop automatically. Then we have already seen in the earlier chapter, tat viddhi padpatena par prashina sevaya updeshanti te jnanam jnanan tattva darshana. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire for him submissively, and render service unto him. First we have to render service unto him actually. Render service means we have to offer dṛḍha-pranām always. When you look your spiritual master, Guru Maharaj, from very far distance, you should offer the dṛḍha-pranām actually, immediately. You don't wait actually, okay, first the Guru Maharaj will recognize me and then I will do this. No. You have to offer the dṛḍha-pranām immediately actually, if we are physically fit. This self-life soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. The path of spiritual righteousness is undoubtedly very difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. Lord Krishna is our original spiritual master actually. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following principles of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciples. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, because there are so many so-called gurus actually, they are manufacturing their own rules actually. You have seen in the newspapers and news also. Bhagavatam 6.3.19 says, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavad pranitam. The path of religion is directly enunciated by the Lord. Therefore, mental speculation or dry arguments cannot help one progress in spiritual life. One has to approach a bona fide spiritual master to receive the knowledge. Such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender, and one should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant, without false prestige. Satisfaction of the self-life spiritual master is the secret of the advancement in spiritual life. Inquiries and submission constitute the proper combination for spiritual understanding. Unless there is submission and service, inquiries from the learned spiritual master will not be effective. So what we have to do? We have to render service to the Lord, service to the spiritual master. How? We have to follow his instruction. If our spiritual master asked us to come daily in the temple actually for Mangal Arati, you have to come. You need not to worry for whatever the difficulties you face actually. You have to come actually. This is the tapasya, penance actually. This is must actually. If you will not follow the instructions of the spiritual master, means you cannot be successful. One must be able to pass the test of the spiritual master, and when he sees the genuine desire of the disciple, he automatically blesses the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. One should not only hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one should also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. Therefore, when the student is submissive and is always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. Bharat Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world. He performed various ritualistic ceremonies, Vedic yagya, for the pleasure of the Lord. He also performed worship of the Lord in different modes. In due course of time, he left the home and resided in Haridwar and passed his days in devotion to the Lord. He was very rigid in executing religious activities based on religious principle. Being undisturbed mind, he was free in performing devotional service to the Lord. One should be very much free actually from attachment and all these things actually, from sense gratification, the attachment to the family, child, home, this building, money. One should be very much free. Then and only that one can offer the devotional service to the Lord actually. In this way, the Bharat Maharaj left his kingdom actually and went to the forest actually. Due to his highly advanced spiritual position, sometimes symptoms of love of God were visible in his body, such as ecstatic crying, falling tears from his eyes, trembling of body, extending the hairs on the body at their ends, etc. Although he was very elevated, he fell down due to his attachment to a young deer. One day when the Bharat Maharaj had was taking his bath as usual in the river Gandaki and was chanting his mantra, he saw a pregnant deer came to river to drink water. Suddenly there could be heard the thundering roar of the lion. Because of this thundering roar of the lion, the deer was so frightened that she immediately gave birth to its calf. She was pregnant. She then crossed the river and died immediately. Bharat Maharaj took compassion upon the motherless calf, because the devotee is always compassionate. Devotee is always compassionate. He rescued him from the water and took that to the ashram and cared for affectionately. He grew up and became Maharaj's companion. Gradually, he became so absorbed, Bharat Maharaj, he became so absorbed in thinking of this deer, his devotion service were adversely affected. He fell down from the mystic yoga position. One day, when he did not find the deer while searching and lamenting the deer's absence, he died. He took next birth as a deer from the womb of the deer. He could understand the reason of his falling from highly elevated position of devotion service. He finally left his mother. When he took the birth as a deer actually, he left his mother actually. He was detached from the mother. Ended his spiritual activities in form of the deer and died. He was thus released from the deer's body. Now the Bharat Maharaj took birth as a Jad Bharat in a Brahmin family. One day, the king Raghun, the ruler of the state known as the Sindhu, required a person for carrying his palanquin. There are the 4 members and 1 member was required. The king chastised him because he did not carry it properly. A carrier of the king Raghun palanquin was needed, and to fulfill the need, the chief carriers found Jad Bharat as the most likely person to do this work. He was therefore forced to carry the palanquin. Jada Bharat, however, did not protest this order because he was tolerant actually. He was a tolerant quality. Tolerant actually. But humbly accepted the job and carried the palanquin. While carrying it, however, he was very careful to see that he did not step on an ant. What is this? He was compassionate also to the living being also. He did not want to kill any living being, even the ants also. Because of this, he could not keep pace with the other carriers. The king within the palanquin became very disturbed and chastised Jada Maharaj with filthy language. But Jada Bharat, being completely free from the bodily conception, did not protest. But Jada Maharaj, he was a devotee of the Lord actually. So he was very much tolerant actually. The pure devotees always avoid this actually, protest actually, arguments, etc. The same done by the Jada Maharaj also. But Jada Maharaj, being completely free from the bodily conception, did not protest. He proceeded carrying the palanquin. When he continued as before, the king threatened him with punishment, and being threatened by the king, the Jada Bharat began to talk. He protested against the filthy language used by the king when the king chastised him. This he did because he wanted to do the welfare to the Lord, welfare to the king actually. Because he wants that everybody should engage in the devotion service to cross over this physical world actually and go to the Golok Vrindavan Dham actually. So that one should not return to this material world actually for repeated birth and death actually. He was very much compassionate. That king now wanted to understand the deep meaning of the philosophical words used by Jada Maharaj, and with great sincerity, he begged his pardon. He admitted that if one offends the lotus feet of a pure devotee, he is certainly punished by the trident of the Lord Shiva. So here we learned from this actually, the Jada Bharat Maharaj was very tolerant. He was very much compassionate towards the living being actually. He wants the compassionate in the ways that actually one should engage in the devotion service so that one may cross over this physical world and to reach the Golok Vrindavan Dham from where nobody returns in this material world actually. Then one should be non-violent also. Non-violence is generally taken to mean not killing or destroying the body, but actually non-violence means not to put others into distress condition actually. Sometimes actually what happens actually, some may put scratch in their vehicles actually. They don't care it actually. So we should not put any distress to the person in his absence actually. And there are in the society, some may throw garbage in front of the houses actually. They don't follow the society rules actually. They don't bother for that actually. They throw dirt actually. So this is, what is there? This is violence actually. There are so many things actually in the societies. People generally are trapped by ignorance in the material concept of life and they purposely suffer material pains. So unless one elevates people to the spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. One is not engaged in the spiritual environment. So he will definitely commit violence actually. He will do violence against the persons actually. One should try his best to preach and distribute real knowledge to the people. By the grace of His Divine Guest Srila Prabhupada, what we are doing? We are preaching the people in general. We are preaching the people in villages. So that they should not commit any violence. Actually, they leave this physical world actually as soon as possible actually. So that they may become enlightened and leave this material world entanglement, that is a non-violence. And the self-control. Self-control means that one should not accept anything which is detrimental to the path of spiritual progress actually. This is very much important. One should become accustomed to this and reject anything which is against the path of spiritual progress. This is real renunciation. These senses are so strong that they are always anxious to have sense gratifications. One should not cater to these demands which are not necessary. These senses should only be gratified to keep the body fit so that one can discharge his duty and devotional service for the advancement in the spiritual life. The most important and uncontrollable senses is the tongue actually. If one can control the tongue, then there is every possibility of controlling the other senses. The function of the tongue is to taste and to vibrate. Therefore, by systematic regulation, the tongue should always be engaged in tasting the remnants of the food stuff offered to the Krishna and chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. As far as the eyes are concerned, they should not be allowed to see anything but the beautiful form of the Krishna. That will control the eyes. Similarly, the ears should be engaged in hearing about Krishna, and the nose in smelling the flowers offered to Krishna. This is the process of devotional service. The loving devotional service to the Lord Krishna is the main and sole objective of the life. What is the sole objective of our life? Is the devotion to the Lord Krishna. And next is false ego. False ego means accepting the body as oneself. When one understands that he is not his body and his spiritual soul, that is a real ego. Ego is there. The false ego is condemned, but not real ego. In the Vedic literature, Upanishad, it is said, I am Brahmasmi, I am Brahm, I am a spirit. This I am, this sense of self, also exists in the liberated stage of self-realization. This sense of I am is ego. But when the sense of I am is applied to the temporary body, it is false ego. This body is temporary. If I am applied to this body actually, it is false ego actually. When the same sense is applied to reality, that is to the Atma, that is a reality, that is a real ego. There are some philosophers who say we should give up our ego, but they cannot give their ego because ego means identify. the spiritual soul, we must of course give up the false identification with the body. This is must actually. Until or unless actually we give the false identification of the body, we cannot progress in the spiritual devotional service actually. In the devotional service of the Lord. This is the first requirement. In chapter 2 actually, we have learned lot of actually regarding this soul actually. This is must actually. Why the people in the world are suffering? Because they do not know what is the body and what is the soul actually. They are ignorant actually. Now, happiness and distress are factors of material life. One should learn to tolerate. As advised in Bhagavad Gita, one can never restrict the coming and going of happiness and distress, because the distress and happiness are coming and going. This is the part of the life actually. If one is in distress, it doesn't mean he will not come to the Lord actually, he will not chant. No. Even in the distress, one has to chant the holy name of Lord Krishna, one has to engage in the devotional service of the Lord actually. So, one should be detached from materialistic way of life and be automatically equipoised in both cases. Generally, we get something desirable, we are happy. Something undesirable, we are under distress. But we are actually in the spiritual position, these things will not agitate us. To reach this stage, we have to practice unbreakable devotional service. Unbreakable means we have to carry out the devotional service constantly, without any break actually. Devotional service of Krishna without deviation means engaging oneself in the 9 processes of devotional service: chanting, hearing, worshipping, offering respect, etc. As described in the last verse. Hare Krishna. Now the time is over actually. If there are any question actually, you can go the question. Any question? No. Hare Krishna.